Alright, so I wanted to do a video in particular just for distributor gear information alone. So let's say you buy an MSD Distributor Pro Billet for $5.0. You'll see different part numbers. This one happens to be the 8456, so it's for it's going to have the EFI Mustangs from 86 to 93. Okay, this is the same distributor as an F-150 and an E-150 5-liter. The dimensions are the same, but I'm going to show you the difference. So let me open this. Alright, so here is the distributor. Alright, again, what dictates the part number of the TFI style distributor for a 5-liter should be the distributor gear type, but there's a couple of different part numbers that say the same, and they'll mark these things up to like $450, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. I got a good deal on this particular one for a Mustang, but I'm using it for a truck version 5.0, right, which is a hydraulic flat tappet. A Mustang is a roller camshaft. And if you don't know what any of that means, you have to go back and get some remedial knowledge on valve train, or else this is not exactly for kind of a beginner, because this is a little tricky. So basically what you're looking at here is the original distributor gear that came on this particular distributor model number. So you can see I've got several metric, like sometimes I use metric, it's easier with the caliper sometimes. And I also have standard and in several different spots. Alright. Again, I've already pressed it off of this one, and I'll tell you why that's not a bad idea in a second. So what you'll notice is you get all these warning flags, which is a good thing, they're very good about that, which is basically talking about your distributor gear type. So notice, there's another one, stop, notice, well actually that's completely different, but there's break-in procedure, but most importantly is based on your camshaft type. So because this was for a Mustang, and again the dimensions are the same, I'll get more into dimensions with the 302 and 351 in a second. So this is warning you between a hydraulic flat tappet and a roller style camshaft, which it doesn't have to do with that you're using flat tappet lifters that are riding on the cam lobe metal to metal, or using roller lifters with little wheels at the bottom of the lifter. This has everything to do with what typical camshafts are and what they're made out of. So a typical hydraulic flat tappet is kind of like a mild performance torque converter, or most torque converters, where they're taking the housing, you have to think of it like, oh, taking the housing of a torque converter and basically changing the turbine and stall speed, stuff like that. So you have to think of hydraulic flat tappet as being the kind of, I know that's a weird analogy, but it still makes sense, to where that style is cast iron material. So even a performance camshaft, like a 3/4 range style cam that's hydraulic flat tappet, is typically going to be just plain old cast iron. Alright? The other grade up from that would be ductile iron, and then from there some roller cams could be even billet steel. The thing is, and some camshafts may have a different cam gear built into the camshaft than what the actual material is of the entire camshaft. So on my cam, for example, is just cast iron. A way you can test for that is taking a piece of metal, like an Allen wrench, and tapping it against the end of the cam. A dull thud is typically cast iron. If it rings out, it's typically going to be billet steel. But the thing is, if you're hydraulic flat tap it, it's 90% of the time that's going to be cast iron, right? So what that means is you need a gear that's a little softer than the camshaft, or else the distributor gear itself can eat up the cam and throw timing off and just completely mess everything up. Now, again, because this is a Mustang, it came with a steel gear, okay, which is too hard for cast iron. Now, there's like things in between, like you can use a composite gear or a bronze gear on any style camshaft because that's softer than all of the material. But for cast iron, you need either composite or at least like a melanized, treated iron gear. All right, so there's a few more things I'm going to get into on that first. Let me pull this thing out of here. Okay, so again, fuel injection with a TFI style distributor. Differences, like again, this is a 302 Windsor 5.0. You will find that people have a misconception that the 351 having a taller deck height is a different distributor, but they're actually basically the same dimensions. They're the same height. The difference is in the shaft diameter for where the interference fit of your gear is going to go. Okay, so if you had a stock 302 distributor and you, where are my calipers? Let's say you mic'd out the size of that, you would find on a 302 it's about a 467 thousandths. This size for the 302 Pro Billet is about 531 thousandths, or the stock size of a 351 Windsor. The difference is, though, that I have an ARP oil pump drive shaft here, very nice. Sold separately, of course. There's my... See, I have so much stuff to keep track of. Notice that I taped my oil primer right to the shaft box, so I can't screw that up. So before the oil pump shaft is in, I remember to prime the engine. Anyway, so I don't remember the exact dimensions, but you'll notice how that's the wrong side. This drive shaft mates up basically perfectly. There's a little play in there, which I'm pretty sure is normal. I mean, obviously I'm going to mic everything out just to be safe, but I want to say that if you had a 351 though, this drive shaft would be that much more loose inside of there. I don't remember, it's something like, the inner diameter is like 200 something thousandths, but that would be the difference between the 351 and the 302. So difference in shaft size on the stock distributors. A Pro Billet has the same shaft diameter as a 351, but this shaft is still smaller so this is made for 302. I'll double check the part numbers on this ARP, but I'm pretty certain it's not cross-compatible with a 351. So why that's important? So let's say you get a good deal on a Mustang distributor, right? And it's going to come with a steel gear, and you're going to realize, oh, I'm running my flat tappet truck engine. What do I do? What do I look for? Well, the good news is, this is the steel gear that I pressed off of here already. But the good news is, the outside diameter and everything else about the gear of a 351 Windsor works with the 302 Pro Billet. So the 302 and the 351 Windsor have the same size and outside diameter distributor gear. The different ones, a 351 Cleveland is going to be compatible with like 400M and other big blocks, so it is different, it is larger. Okay, but why that's important is because you're going to start looking, when you want to change this, you're going to start looking for, oh, 302 Windsor iron, and you're not going to find one with a 531 thousandths inside diameter that it's actually going to work on this. Okay, so to make it easy, you're just going to look up 351 Windsor distributor gear, and it's going to be compatible with your 302 Pro Billet. And I'll show you one here. I have a couple of issues that I already want to talk about though when it comes to install. So here it is. This is part number 85852. I'm not going to open that up on camera, but they are the identical size, and that's a 531 thousandths. Actually, I am going to open it off camera because I do want to show something. So, all right, so here are our two gears. Steel on the right and iron on the left, except something I noticed is they have a C marked on there, which would be composite. So I'm not sure if composite is technically the same as, like, I think basically what they're selling is a modified, like maybe the heat treatment is better, but it's still technically composite because it is more than just iron involved. So either way, here's kind of the rub is, let's say you get this Mustang distributor for like $400 or something. Retail off MSD, it's gonna be they're ridiculously expensive, honestly. It's a lot of markup. They are overall a stronger unit and a billet piece, and obviously you're getting a larger shaft diameter for the 302, so it has its advantages, and then obviously better advantages if it's tethered with a better TFI coil, or if you have a full 6AL kind of ignition system. Anyway, so here's the thing. This is $30. Okay? A steel gear is about $107. Now, you may not be able to get retail, but what I did was when I pressed this off, and it's in perfect condition if anyone's interested, but and it does include the roll pin, which thankfully the new kit does, but there's a couple problems I have with that. So the thing is, you spend like 400 plus on this, sell that steel gear, because the thing is, they're gonna sell you the truck part number, like the 85, what is this one again? 8456. I can't remember the part number. It's very similar. It's like 84 something else. And then there's like, it may be in the 2s, in the 10s place. But anyway, so the thing is they don't differentiate in the price of this. So again, this right now is about $107 retail. I have mine listed for like $85, so someone will come along, save some money, and then you're taking almost $100 off of your distributor plus the 30. You save $70, so now you're closer to like $360 you paid for the whole thing. But again, they're not charging different. So if you can get a steel geared 302 8456, you're gonna save some money because they've taken no money off of the iron gear one. Which, whatever, I get it's a business. But that's a way for you to kind of make a little, or save a little money. Like, it's still expensive, but just a thought for you. Because once you see that it's relatively easy to do this, so long as you have a 6-ton or 12-ton jack. I don't know if a 6-ton will get it done. Maybe with some heat. Okay, my only problem with this is, now, you have that roll pin, right? And you can see where I took some acrylic paint, which is no big deal. That'll wipe off with rubbing alcohol. But you can mostly get an idea of how far you're going to go just because of the scuff marks on the... of course, I can't think of the coating name. but you'll see that that's scuffed up. It's not exactly the same black. It's more of a gray. You can probably see that on camera too when I rotate it. So you can, again, like I took all of my measurements, and you can kind of probably, I'm a person that likes to line up holes because I don't have a drill press. So if I could start the new one, like, the thing is, as soon as you get some interference going, like a couple of millimeters, as long as that's lined up, like, this isn't really going to twist on you. So it's not impossible. But a lot of people, they'll just go 90 degrees, start fresh, and then just plan to drill, which is fine. The problem I have, like, this drives me nuts, is when you look at this part number for the iron gear, again, for your hydraulic flat tappet, is, and I saw this in the photo and I said, oh, it must be an error, but they only give you one hole as a pilot hole. Yet the spec sheet says drilling required. No. Well, I don't know, maybe the C stands for China, but that's obviously the instructions that they have, right? Is to give it one pilot hole. And I understand that, like, that makes sense if you're going to drill a new hole. But, you know, if I really have to, if I can at least get that lined up and I only have to punch through. But the problem is I don't even think I have cobalt drill bits to do this, let alone a drill press, even though that'll act as a guide. Like, I'm sure it's fine. And these roll pins are about an 1/8 inch diameter, I would say. But that kind of irked me a little bit because the whole reason I made this video was to show pressing on and pressing off, which is obviously a lot easier, but that just kind of irked me a little bit because now I do have to drill and then blow out little burrs and stuff like that. But anyway, I just don't think it's impossible, not even close to impossible, to get those to line up, as I've done it with a lot of things. It just takes a good eye. You know, I was going to make a paint line above that just to make sure I'm lined up. The reason I wanted to do that, because think about it this way. Yeah, like 2 holes, it's probably not going to kill it, but at the same time, for what you're paying for this stronger shaft, to affect the integrity by now having 2 bores in that shaft, to me is kind of stupid. Yes, that could be avoided if you bought the truck distributor, but at the time I was looking at compatibility sheets and someone said, oh, F-150, and I wasn't thinking about distributor gears. So a little user error, but at the same time, like I said, you could save yourself money by going that direction. Alright, so now let me show you a couple other things. Alright, so if you have a knocker kit like this kind of thing, one of these is perfect for pressing it on. When I pressed the other one off, I have press plates. Of course, it's dark as hell over here. But if you have a bottle jack press like this, usually there's going to be these little triangles have a broad enough range to sit against the teeth without affecting it. Now pressing it on, you'll notice that what's inherent to the actual gear is kind of a that basically acts as a washer, okay? Because you don't want to press on the teeth. So that's basically why those are molded in. And my plan here is, once this is sitting on the press, instead of using the triangles, like obviously you couldn't use this on, my point is this will fit on the lower portion of the shaft, but if it would have fit, well, there's no way to get it on for one thing, so I don't even know why I started to mention that. But okay, so you'll notice that this is a decent fit here where it's getting enough coverage. So when I go to press this on, all I'm gonna do is basically set that down, and once this is aligned, you're going to start pressing it from the top. So let me show you that. Okay, so you're going to unclip your cap, and basically, I don't think you can put this on. No, you can't really put it on backwards, I don't think, but the way that it comes from the factory anyway is with the MSD logo is in the back of the TFI. Here's your pickup. You're just going to take that right off. No big deal. And this shaft right here goes all the way down, so you're not going to hurt this pressing on it. This is all a part of the shaft. And it doesn't take that much weight to really get that interference fit. And you'll also use heat. If you have a hot air blower, that's best. I use a torch. I've done it with my ring gear and stuff like that. If you're really careful just to kind of lick the surface with the flames, you won't really burn off heat coating. Like, you just want to get it to a few hundred degrees. Even less, like 150 to 200, I feel like does it. I have to do that, especially my I need a new bottle jack. I don't know, maybe it needs fluid, but I basically overextended it, and I don't think it has the same 12-ton power in it. So basically, you'll notice here that this does sit lower, but that's honestly no big deal, because that boom can fit right inside of there. So the whole distributor is just going to be sitting on those plates with that knocker, and you're basically going to be driving it down. The reverse, I should have had light set up. The reverse was just having it sticking out there. And then of course you want another hand below the press. So that's basically all there is to it. The only thing is, this is another good reason to use heat, is the warmer that gear is, the less it's gonna jump on you at every time you bring that jack. Because even if you're doing it tiny amounts, you can only have so much muscle control. Probably putting like a good fulcrum on the bottle jack is a good idea, but that's basically about it, and that's why I'm gonna show that process. Unfortunately, I have to see if I have a cobalt bit or not to finish for this video, which I'm hoping I do. And again, you can basically see where the gear was sitting, and it's right on those gold marks, and it's not going to be completely flush with the start of this shaft. Okay, the gear is going to sit, to try and explain that better, is you're going to be able to look down into that bevel, and there's going to be a little bit of space, so that that is neither flush with this opening, nor is it out of it, like further back like that. But that's another good reason to try to line your holes up the best you can. So let's see, I'm going to try to get that all set up. Let's see if I can film it. Actually, what I'm going to do next is I have some acrylic paint, so I want some really bright marks so that I can see where I'm going with that. And we'll at least get that pressed on. See if we can line up the shaft holes, because if I can't do that, I'm probably gonna just go 90 degrees and at some point, because I don't need this immediately, but I like to do little things like this so that I'm prepared. If I can't align it enough to where the roll pin's gonna go in, or a drill bit, is I will turn it 90 degrees and start a fresh hole. Don't want to, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, so now that's in the press. So I have the shaft right under the boom, all the way down to the knocker. Now I got these aligned the best I could. It could be off, it couldn't. And you find I don't even really need to get heat on this. It's doing plenty. And as the holes get closer, you may find you are off. But I think this looks pretty good. What's up with that sound? Hold on a sec. So I just went to readjust that a little, make sure that's seated enough. Almost there. Yeah, I could have added some heat. Get a fulcrum. It's a little overkill. I also put my shield on. One second. So I think for this final press, I'm gonna use some heat. Check that. Needs more heat. It's not a lot. may have done it. Let's check the hole. It's not quite there. Of course, this isn't focusing. One more should do it. Waiting for that click. Let me check the hole. I don't think it's moved at all. Alright, I do have some specs here now, finally. And so basically from the thrust collar to about the center bore, okay, I do have some specs now. So basically, from your thrust collar, which is here, to your bore where the roll pin goes into the gear is about 1 3/4, which mine got basically spot on, as long as these calipers are doing okay. Now, from the bottom of the distributor gear to here, above the O-ring, this collar, I don't know if that's also a collar and what part of that is, but either way, from this section above the O-ring, you're basically going to be around 4 inches. So it's got 4 5/1000ths max, or 3 996/1000ths minimum. And I don't trust this clunky caliper, so basically just looking at the hard figures on the etched in the metal and getting around 4. Like now it's working okay, but that measurement is going to be from there to there. But you should take a flat edge. Of course, I have nothing around. Should be a piece of aluminum or something. But if you took a flat edge and put it against that, so you can get a harder measurement, but I'm pretty certain that this is, see now of course this is reading lower figures, but I'm right on the money within 4 inches, so I'm not worried. I think at worst it would be like a particular kind of wear, but considering I'm within this spec, I don't think it's really an issue. Also, one thing I know in the beginning I was talking about 531/1000ths versus 467/1000ths. Somewhere I read that a 5-liter EFI is a 531/1000ths, but here's the thing is I believe that means for a roller engine. So maybe the distributors are different, because I could not find an iron gear that was advertised for a 302 or 50 with a 531 size. So that's why I said at the beginning, just grab up an iron one. So now I have to find a drill bit. I went all the way inside and to get those specs, and there they are right in the box. Of course they are. Actually printed twice. So when you do get to that, once you get that drilled out, you're going to take your roll pin and you're just going to drive that in with a punch or whatever you can find until it's flush, and it should be good to go. But just remember to drill. I'm not going to show that part, but I think you get the idea. Just hammer that in.